All right, now in some of the stories, at least 10,000 indigenous and migratory birds have died in Rajasthan's largest saltwater lake, Sambar. And this is an incident that is said to have happened over a course of 9 days when officials found a huge number of bird carcasses at the site. Although the authorities collected birds' viscera and sent samples for testing to ascertain the actual cause of their death, the reason at this point of time still remains unknown.
हमने 9 दिन के अंदर लगभग 10,000 से ज़्यादा पक्षियों को हमारी आंखों के सामने दफनाते हुए देखा। हम लोगों के लिए बहुत बड़ी बात है ये। हम लोगों की फिर भी पूरी कोशिश है कि हम दलदल के अंदर 200-300 मीटर अंदर जाकर के इस तरह के बेजुबान जानवरों को बचाने की पूरी कोशिश कर रहे हैं। कारणों का अभी तक पता चल नहीं पाया है। रिपोर्ट से यहाँ से सैंपल लेकर के जाया जाता है, 2-3 दिन बाद आती है। अभी कुछ जगह की रिपोर्ट्स बाकी हैं। हम लोग केवल एंटीबायोटिक देकर के इनको जिंदा रख पा रहे हैं।
Meanwhile, ornithologists are struggling to understand the reason for such a large scale of deaths of these migratory birds, but some experts suggest that the birds could not adjust to the hot weather in the subcontinent and their carcasses developed maggots, and subsequently other birds too got paralysis and died. The migratory birds from the northern part of the hemisphere fly to the Indian wetlands during late November and December. However, the birds arrived early this year due to premature winters. Now, the Endangered Species Act was signed into a U.S. law in 1973. It has prevented most of the species from going extinct. But even after these efforts, there are at least about 1,600 species that still remain on the endangered species list. Our next report gets you the story.
At Fort Bragg, U.S. service members train for battle. As scientists fight on a different front.
Of all the places you'd think to see an endangered butterfly, I mean, why would it be this one place?
The tiny, rare St. Francis Satyr butterfly was first discovered at the military base in North Carolina in 1983. It was listed as federally endangered about a decade later. Early efforts to save them didn't work.
Here I was, the conservation biologist, not saving the species as I thought I would. I was basically causing its extinction.
Nick Haddad worked with the Army and came up with a radical approach to simulate beaver activity and embrace the controlled burns on the training grounds.
These butterflies live in habitats that are maintained by natural disturbances, and we were keeping those things out.
The population has now risen to about 3,200, up from about 2,000 earlier this decade.
Oh, there are places in here that look good.
Since the Endangered Species Act was signed into law in 1973, it has prevented most of the protected species from going extinct.
That one looks like it's probably going to be a female.
Today, more than 1,600 plants and animals remain on the list.
The much harder goal is to get species recovered. And if you look at the number of species that have recovered, that's only about 2 to 3%.
If it hadn't been for the Endangered Species Act, they would have been gone on every military installation and every national forest.
This bird's in the process of molting his flight feathers. So if you'll notice, these feathers here are more worn.
The red cockaded woodpecker, also found at Fort Bragg, was among the first animals to be protected by the government.
It attracted a lot of attention because it was so contentious.
The Army couldn't train in certain areas, and landowners didn't want government interference. But after biologists discovered the woodpecker also thrives in disturbed environments and only nests in live trees, the military and community became partners in saving the species.
In my lifetime, I never thought that I was going to see woodpeckers survive.
Now we're at a situation where we can see woodpeckers and butterflies together.